break it down. And I want everybody to be thinking about things that Rilus is saying. And maybe you're not catching on to it. It's about him being curious, his being around the right people, him looking into it himself. So tell us like how you found the deal. How did it happen? The seller, all the things.
Yeah. So the way this deal that we worked on, it came under my radar through Facebook. It was posted by another wholesaler, a house in Mesa. But I reached out and I was like, I'm all about this deal. I want to see it. Eventually, I went and saw the property. What this was a property on the MLS about 40 days or so at that time. And the owner is actually an agent herself. Brandon went to her to, just offer different options, because it wasn't selling. At first, Brandon was like, no, she doesn't want to do the seller financing. She just wants a lease option. So I was like, okay, like I'm interested in that still, but I just want to know how it's going to convert. If I convert the option, would she be interested in seller financing at that time? Or eventually he put me in touch directly with the seller. She was done being a landlord, but she wanted to sell this property, just kind of lock in the high prices. And in order to save taxes, she was going to 1031 into another property.
What was Brandon trying to accomplish? So obviously an investor that does a lot. Brandon's like huge, right? What was his objective? Like he took the property down and it didn't fit his needs. And based upon you guys knowing each other, he thought Rilus, or he knew you wanted the property, or how did that transition happen?
He had an option contract with her. So the option was if you got someone into in a lease situation. So his deal, he told me straight up that he would get half of the cash that the option contract brought.
What happened was it didn't make sense. So then you went and talked to the seller, right? And kind of dug a little bit deeper is what it sounded like.
Yeah. So I think that option was a critical part though. I was trying to figure out what is the play on her side, what's going to help her out. So he connected us so we could speak directly. She just wants to lock in income for herself and then her family. So what I said to her is, instead of finding the next property to invest in, is you change your position from owning the home to owning the note. You become the bank. So that way, that would guarantee you the income, but you don't have to worry about tenants and fixing toilets.
Yep. She was a broker, right?
Yeah.
In real estate for a long time. But let's talk about, one is, because I come from the traditional world, been doing this over 15 years, is we don't get taught these things. Okay. We rarely go over owner carryback or seller finance at all. So her being a traditional broker kind of had her, as you could understand, her mindset that way. So what Rilus did is what all investors should be doing is he's a great listener. He listened to what Brandon told him, could understand what she was trying to accomplish, and had that conversation to dig a little bit deeper and to say, listen, do you want to be a landlord? Her main goal was not having capital gains and having that cash flow. So he was able to provide her a solution that maybe she didn't even know she had by saying, I can give you your cash flow. And not only that is I can extend it out a certain amount of time, and you don't even have to worry about a property or being a landlord, and having those conversations. So I just want everybody to remember, like, all of these different pieces that seem so simple are how we close deals, is being a good listener. Our job is to find a solution, and that's exactly what you did. So was there any like roadblocks that you had with her or anything like that in that conversation?
Not really. So one of her questions was, what if you stop paying, right? So explain, that she'd have security where, if I stop paying, she could take the property back. And she was like, well, what if you trash the place? I'll give you a down payment, right? So you have some sort of down payment, even if you get the property back, at least you've got some cash out of it up front.
These are all of the different conversations that you'll have with seller finance, but being able to talk with her about what does that look like? Who draws it up? How is it filed? She wanted like $200 more. So instead of changing the purchase price or the interest rate, what did you do?
But the property is worth probably about somewhere around $400,000. But I said I would do $40,000 down and $1,200 a month for 30 years. But I said I would do $1,200, 0% interest. That works out to $432,000 plus the $40,000 down payment I made to her. So $472,000.
So another thing, as we're breaking it down with seller finance, is Rilus said it, and this is what I tell everybody: the purchase price is not so relevant to the cash flow. There are certain things with these seller finances where we could give them higher amount than maybe their property is worth at a lower interest rate rate if that cash flow makes sense. Everybody, all the calls that I get all the time are, Rochelle, how do you structure this? Help me structure it. What do I do with interest rate? You got to reverse engineer these. So you got to focus on the cash flow and say, the bottom line is if I gave you $1,000,000 and your cash flow was $600 or whatever it is, would that make sense to you? No. But then this is what I told her when I was on the phone. The bottom line is we need to find that cash flow that makes sense for you, or that makes sense for you and Rilus. So always start with your cash flow, guys, and then reverse engineer it. How do you reverse engineer it? Everybody's like, it's that simple. I get on bankrate.com. I plug and play a few numbers knowing where I can be so I can have that conversation and close the deal. But always start with the cash flow and explain it to the seller like that. The psychology of a seller is her property was listed at 430 and he offered 472. She's feeling really good about this deal.
Yeah. So, kept this really basic. And
Yeah.
again, like I've talked to so many people, got so many no's, but she was just like, okay. And then she was like, let's put it in a contract. She's like, can you send me a contract with this? And that's where I contacted you. I was like, all right, Rochelle. It's like, I got a seller. I was like, can you help me with a contract? You knew exactly what I was talking about, or it was great. You made it super easy. You put in the terms of, the general terms that we agreed to. We're able to finish from there.
And then after that, it got executed. We did all the things like the preliminary title report, checking, making sure there was no other numbers or anything like that. We were able to help her sign, to go pick up documents and all the different things. And now you're living in your property. It's a done deal. He's got his first deal. And I'm hoping everybody can see like the power of seller finance.